Today we're going to talk about all the different ways that you in the US or Canada can practice Spanish if you're serious about making gains. Right? So first place you can go try out to improve your Spanish is just a local Hispanic restaurant. Mexican, Puerto Rican, Dominican, Cuban, doesn't much matter, right? Mexican is probably going to be the easiest. They tend to speak a little bit slower than the others, but either one would work, right? And so here, be that annoying person who speaks Spanish. Make sure they speak Spanish first, but be that annoying person who speaks Spanish to them, even if they're used to speaking English or coming to you and speak English, right? Because they're going to be very happy to play along and have a good time and speak Spanish with you. It's a very low pressure way in which to get some Spanish practice in. You can also take this idea and, as a beginner, transfer this to a Hispanic market, right? You can walk into a Hispanic marketplace, and this is going to be great because, one, you're going to get a ton of vocab practice. All this stuff is going to be written in Spanish. And you're going to be able to peg that word with an item instead of that word to another word in Spanish, so you're going to help yourself to stop translating so much. And then you can chat up the cashier. Ask them just some basic, simple questions. What is their name? Where are they from? Tell them you're practicing Spanish and you're learning Spanish and you want to practice a little bit, right? Maybe as you're walking around the aisles, you ask people like, hey, where can I find this? Hey, what ingredient do I need to make this dish, right? Where are they from? Ask those basic get-to-know-you questions. If you want to go a little bit more in-depth, you can look up some Hispanic cultural centers in the town near you, right? This is great because they generally have events that bring together the Hispanic community, the Spanish-speaking community, and will allow you to practice. You'll get to hear people speak, you'll get the chance to talk, right? You might not contribute as much as you would like, depending on your level, but it's a great way in which to practice. Another great way to practice your Spanish when you're in the US or Canada is to go to, if you're religious, a church service in Spanish. This is something I did a lot in the past in high school and in college. In my first year of college, I went to a church service that was in Spanish with the express purpose of going there to practice my Spanish, right? We would listen to the sermon in Spanish, we would sing songs in Spanish, right? And then I would get a chance to meet and greet with people afterwards and talk to them, ask them where they're from, what they do, right? How long they've been going to this church, any question that might pop up. And the reason this is great is because it's all going to be centered around one theme. Same thing with the market, same thing with the restaurant, right? You have one theme in which you're going to attack, and so you can prep and study for it by reviewing the vocab before you go. The next thing you could do, if you're in a big city, this doesn't work as well in small cities, but if you're in a major city, there's generally going to be a language meetup, right? This is a chance for you to meet and greet with other Spanish learners. Chatting with Spanish learners is great. You don't always have to go and speak to native speakers. Chatting with learners is great because they're going to use simpler language, they're going to use simpler sentence structure, and they're not going to use slang, and they're going to speak a little bit slower, right? Making it easier on you to understand them and have a conversation. Also, you'll generally be paired up by level, so you won't be stuck with somebody who is completely fluent, you'll be somebody who's on your level, right? So you can have a conversation about similar things, and you won't feel like, oh my God, what's going on, this person is so much better. Building on that idea, you could also go, if you're a little bit more advanced, and join the Spanish language book club. I was just talking to a student from New York the other day about this, and I pulled up meetup.com, or meetup.org, I don't remember what it is, and looked up Spanish meetups, right? And one of the ones that was offered was a Spanish book club, right? Where you go, you're gonna read the book in Spanish, you're gonna meet people, you're gonna, again, have a common theme, a common topic in the book, right? Speak about, and you're going to get the chance to practice and put your skills both in like what you read, giving your opinion, right? Debating some topics, right? Giving your analysis of whatever you read. Another thing you can do to practice your Spanish is to go and volunteer. If you go and volunteer in a Hispanic neighborhood, which you could just go walk around the Spanish neighborhood too, meet and greet people, talk to them, hit them up, chat them up, right? And have a good time, right? But if you want to have a little bit of benefit behind what you're doing, you can go and volunteer, right? Look up in your town, ministries or volunteer organizations that service like the Hispanic community, right? And go and help them out, right? Off the back of that, if you're a little bit more advanced and you want to go and volunteer, you could offer your services as a translator, as an interpreter, right? For the community. You could also go along the line of a book club. You could go and look up film nights. Generally, in most big cities, there's a Spanish language film night, right? Whether that's at like a local embassy, whether that's a meetup organized by people, whether it's at a theater that shows movies in Spanish, right? Which, if you want a really good way to practice your Spanish if you're a little bit more advanced, go watch a movie in Spanish. Amazing, right? Whether you're in Mexico or whether you're in the US or Canada, you can probably find this. Right? Another thing you can do to practice your Spanish in the US or in Canada is to set all of your settings into Spanish. I will say that if you're going to do that, make sure that you know how to go back and change it, because there's nothing worse than having to sit there and translate everything to try and find out where the heck are the language settings, right? You can also do this with your social media, right? I do this all the time. For example, I believe right now my Instagram and my Facebook are both in French because they're languages that I speak pretty well. I get them to understand most of what is being said, right? But it's allowed me to learn tons of new words around on social media, right? Very specific words that I probably wouldn't learn otherwise, right? And same with sayings, right? I learned lots of words just from having it in that language, very specific words, niche words that I wouldn't have a chance or force myself to study otherwise. If you're a gamer, a huge way you could take advantage of that hobby is you could, one, set the language to Spanish, right? So all of the cutscenes and the chat is in Spanish. Or two, if you play online games, you could join Hispanic, Spanish country language servers and play those games, whether it's Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, whatever, I'm not really a big video game guy, with people from Spanish-speaking countries, right? This will be great, especially if you're a little bit more advanced. I think that if you're a little bit more on the beginner side, just change the settings to Spanish. If you're a little bit more advanced, you can jump into those lobbies, right? And that's going to be great because you're going to learn lots of slang, you're going to learn lots of words that are related to the game, right? And you're also going to get a lot of practice with learning some curse words, right? Which is always the best part of learning any language, is learning how to curse someone out. I will say, don't start cursing people out unless you know how to get yourself out of that situation, because first time you let out a cabrón or pendejo and you can't explain and cut it off, they get mad, you're going to have problems. Also, if you're a little bit more advanced, you could read Wikipedia in Spanish. If you're on Wikipedia looking at something, you could just simply switch it to Spanish and read about it, right? And if there's something that you're really confused about and you need to go back to English, well, that's A-okay, right? But you can get that Spanish reading practice. You could also choose to read and watch the news in Spanish, right? If you're a little bit more on the intermediate side, maybe you're just trying to get the gist of what is being said, and you don't understand every word. And if you're more on the advanced side, well, you can sit there and analyze the text, make sure you understand, maybe even ask ChatGPT to make up a few questions afterwards, copy and paste the article, and so you can practice a little bit of debate skills, right? And really learn all those words that you don't know. Look them up. Another great way to practice Spanish is to simply use an app. Now, Duolingo and Babbel I think are kind of garbage, but there's a really good one called LingQ. I think is amazing. It's really fun. It's really interactive. It allows you to upload things you're reading about. So if you're like reading news or you're reading a Wikipedia article or you're watching a TV show in Spanish, well, you can upload it and watch it through their platform, and it's going to help you to learn the language. Now, if you really want to go all in, you can also get a little part-time side hustle working in a place where they are going to force you to speak Spanish, right? Maybe that's in a kitchen where there's a bunch of Spanish speakers. Maybe that's working at a local Hispanic market. Or maybe, if you really want to go for it, go and babysit some kids for some Spanish speakers, right? This is probably better if you're a little bit younger, right? And you're looking for a side hustle. Even if you do it just one day a week, that's one day of practice. Especially if you're babysitting or working a full shift, where you're getting so many chances to practice Spanish, right? You're also going to learn tons of vocab that is related to whatever job you happen to pick up that you otherwise wouldn't probably find a reason to learn. There's also something called MOOCs, M-O-O-C, which are online courses that are available. They're for free. And you can find a ton of these in Spanish, from Coursera, from Udemy, from X. There's a couple other ones that I'll leave down in the comments below. But there's all kinds of courses. It's going to be more in-depth knowledge. This is particularly good if you're like intermediate or advanced, because you're going to get a lot of vocab and things, and you're going to get a lot of history, you're going to get a lot of practice just speaking Spanish. If you do the assignments, you get even more, right? Another thing you can do is join a karaoke night. Go. You're going to get a chance to hear people speaking. You're going to get a chance to interact with people. You're going to get a chance to go sing a song in Spanish and practice your pronunciation. You might majorly blow this, but that is okay. The point is to practice, not to be perfect, right? And I promise you, nobody's going to laugh at you. Everybody is going to sing along and cheer you on and have a great time because you're the gringo up there trying to sing a song in Spanish. Especially if you pick like an old school, really popular salsa or ranchera song. It's in Celia Cruz, things like that. Right? And the last thing you can do if you're stuck in an English-speaking place or somewhere you can't get access to Spanish is you can talk to ChatGPT. Download the app on your phone, and there's an option where you can just talk to it, and it'll be an interactive conversation partner. So you start off asking it, even if at a basic level, you can ask it just some basic questions, right? Where are you from? What's your name? How long have you been learning Spanish? Things like that, right? Or if you're more advanced, you can really get into that, talk about your day, talk about what you've been having in Spanish. whatever you may want. And this is a super interactive way, and it's super nice because there's not that of being with a human, having to worry about did I understand them, and did I make a mistake, oh my god, they're gonna make fun of me, they're gonna think I'm an idiot, right? There are so many ways to practice Spanish, even in a place where you don't have access to Spanish speakers. Let alone if you're in a city and have access to a place where there's tons of Hispanic immigrants, right? I just listed off somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 options, right? But there's so many more, right? And if you want the complete list, be sure to send me a DM and I will send you this full list, right? If you want to learn about classes, be sure to let me know, send me a message, comment on this post below class, and I'll send you the information. We'll start a conversation.